Welcome in. It's the Wednesday edition of Three-Man Front. Pat Smith, Landrum Roberts, Conrad Van Order, Molly Robinson. A little bit under the weather today. Get some rest, Molly.
She is on the availability report, and she is not available.
That is correct. But she's probable for this weekend.
Okay, that's good to hear.
So get to feeling better. Molly, we've got a jam-packed show for you on this Wednesday. So much to get into, a lot happening in the world of college football. Brian Edwards from Vegas Insider, he will join us at 10:45. Chris Stewart, the voice of the Alabama Crimson Tide, he was on the call for the upset of the century as Vanderbilt took out Alabama on Saturday. We'll talk to him about what he saw when moving forward with this Alabama team. Scott Hamilton, columnist for the Charleston Post-Courier, he is going to join the show at 11:30. We'll talk to him about South Carolina coming to Bama this weekend. Also some interesting thoughts on Clemson, as Clemson seems to have righted the ship.
Hey, we're still here.
That's right. Little old Clemson.
Little old Clemson.
Yep.
We're just right here.
Jump on the y'all bus.
The Roy bus.
Roy bus, y'all bus.
Y'all bus.
Whatever.
Us bus.
All the same. Also, Dimitri Ravenous, one of our favorite guests on the show from Barrett Sports Media. He is going to join the show in the fourth hour of the program. So our thoughts and prayers for everyone down on the western coast of Florida as that hurricane, now a 5, looks like it is bearing down. They say maybe late tonight it will make landfall as maybe a category 4, maybe one of the worst storms in the history of hitting the state of Florida. So thoughts and prayers with all those people in the western coast of Florida having to deal with so much, because this is going to be, it's going to come across, it's going to affect everybody in Orlando. Then it's actually going to make its way across the peninsula and still be a hurricane as it hits the Atlantic Ocean.
That's that it's kind of hard to fathom when you think about the strength and the intensity of these storms once they hit landfall. But just there in that strip, of course, the state of Florida, not a very wide state. And the storm surges I'm seeing, the potential of not only 12 to 18 inches of rain, but as far as you could be seeing 15 to 18 feet of storm surge. And we know that with the geography there in the state of Florida, I mean, you're talking about being underwater quick.
Yeah. Because of where we always vacation and always come through the panhandle of Florida, Paxton, Florida has the highest point of elevation in the state of Florida. And that's very close to the Alabama state line.
Yeah.
And so that just tells you.
Good little football program, by the way.
Yeah. So it just tells you that there's not a lot of mountaintops. There's not a lot of hilly areas in the state of Florida.
Is that really the highest? Paxton right there?
Right there off the interstate, off Paxton, not the interstate, but county road, right off. You have the sign that points to the.
So going 331, right? Is it 331? And then you have the high school that's right there. And then they have the home of the, I can't remember.
Yep.
But they've won a lot of championships.
Is it Panthers?
Maybe. I was thinking Bulldogs, but I might have them mixed up with Freeport.
Possibly.
Which is
right there.
On down. So, but yeah, you're right. Thoughts and prayers with everybody. Not only the folks that are residents there, but also the first responders and everybody else that is going to have to be on standby and helping out.
And you say what they've done with Tropicana Field? They have turned Tropicana Field into
like a refuge for
first responders. So it's just nothing but cots. Like it's already set up. It's just already laid out on the baseball field. That's on the turf. Just, cots everywhere.
My wife's uncle, he's there in Orlando in a hotel, and because of traffic and everything else, he's decided that he's going to try to
weather the storm.
weather. You'd have to kind of know him and his personality. I don't know. For whatever reason, he didn't get out. So thoughts and prayers with everybody down there.
Some historic changes are coming to college sports. A couple of things happened within the last 24 hours. The NCAA Division I Council approved this morning to eliminate the National Letter of Intent program. The changes come as the NCAA undergoes its most seismic changes to date. The House versus NCAA settlement would permit schools to pay athletes more than $20 million a year. Now, this National Letter of Intent, the program started back in 1964. It is the binding agreement signed by recruits for generations. Instead, now, financial aid and scholarship agreements are expected to be used. Now, the entire NLI will not be ditched. However, as the recruiting rules around the program will still be commonplace, athletes enter the transfer portal and move schools. Most just sign an athletics aid agreement. So they have gotten rid of the typical national letter of intent that you have to sign. Now, this same council last night, they voted to shorten both the transfer portal windows, which means the spring transfer portal window, it's not being eliminated. That originally was being discussed. It's still there, at least for right now. In college football, athletes will have a 20-day window in the winter and 10 days in the spring. So they have shortened it. So for the current year, those dates will be December 9th to December 28th. And then again, April 16th to the 25th. And all sports, an additional 30-day notification of transfer will continue for student athletes where their coach leaves the program, which we saw that with Nick Saban. More than 2,800 FBS scholarship players entered their names in the NCAA's transfer portal database last year alone. 2,800. Removing those who withdrew or went pro, the final total was 2,707 transfers. That means that 25% of all FBS scholarship football players hit free agency last year. 25%. One of every four found themselves in the transfer portal.
1 in 4 of you will not be here at the end of this semester.
Now look to your right. Look to your left.
And they had discussed possibly just doing away with the spring transfer portal window. But the more you think about it, I think it's good to have that option, even if it is just a 10-day window for guys that maybe don't fit your program. You need to free up roster spots if you're a coach or if you're a player and you go through a spring and you realize I'm probably better suited going somewhere else. Maybe I'm a better fit. I just couldn't see it being one isolated window and not having the option. And I think 10 days, that's probably perfect. The way that it was too long. It's too long for us to keep up with, selfishly.
So Deion Sanders met with the media yesterday, and he had this to say about the transfer portal.
There needs to be a rule NCAA-wise to, if that's your course of action, they should let them go and start their next journey with the whatever team that is that they've already been talking to, because they've already been talking. Just like the two guys from that we played several weeks ago, Colorado State. They said they were offered how much in the portal? 600,000. How are you offering 600 and you didn't get in the portal? Why can none of y'all ask that question? How are you offered 600,000 but you didn't get in the portal?
What he was referring to is that the quarterback for Colorado State, and I believe it was their wide receiver, they had crowed that they had been offered $600,000 to get into the transfer portal. And obviously you heard Deion kind of question that. But so Deion Sanders would be okay with, first off, it sounds like he's okay with people tampering. If you basically want to call somebody that's on someone's roster and say, hey, man, I noticed that you only played 20 snaps on the Pro Football Focus college football breakdown over the weekend. Would you like to come to Colorado? According to Deion, that's okay.
Well, it's happening anyways, so you might as well.
But then he's saying that you should be able to leave immediately. Like there is no sitting out. It's like basically
you can go jump on another team and play the next week.
Now, I don't know if he meant that. I'm just being fair, but by listening to what I heard him say, he is completely open to, like, if someone is talking to you, Conrad, and you decide, well, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and leave, then whether you're going to be eligible or not, but you can go immediately and then be a part of that team. Now, whether you play or not, you'll wait and see. I mean, we've seen this in high school football in our own state, in the Birmingham metropolitan area.
We have.
Where there will be a kid that will play on a Friday night, and by Sunday, he is on the football roster of another high school. Like that happened last year. Now, he did not play.
Did not play
the rest of the season, but he quit his other team and went to another high school and was around that football team throughout the playoffs. So, I mean, it's already happening. So I just find it interesting that Deion Sanders is taking it another step in which he is openly saying, okay, if somebody's already talking to him, then you're already gone.
What if you could trade, right? You have a guy that wants to get in the portal right now. Let's say Alabama wants a defensive lineman and they have a wide receiver that's unhappy. And then you have BYU that has a defensive lineman that wants to transfer, and you can kind of do all right, well, they both want out. They're both going to take their red shirt. They're both going to hit the portal. Let's just swap them. All right. You want to come to Alabama? You want to go to BYU? Great. Now we're both happy.
Well, certain positions would allow for it. I would think that it'd be really tough if you're a quarterback to come in and pick up somebody else's system midseason and take over and dominate. Now,
I don't think this would ever happen.
Specialist,
just,
that's easy. Wide receiver, maybe that's a little bit easier. I would think that defensive players, defensive linemen, you plug and play, get him in there.
It's just an idea. It's not going to happen. But
no, but
well, I mean,
but
I'm kind of open
crazier
to
things
it.
have happened, so it might actually.
But we're paying these kids a lot of money. I'm not paying them. Pat is. We're paying these kids a lot of money to come and play. I think Lane Kiffin mentioned it. What if you're down on quarterbacks? You're down to your third string quarterback, or you're down to your third string running back, like Texas was, and they were decimated at that position before the start of the season. You get a one time where you can go and grab somebody off somebody else's roster.
Mm-hmm. I know you kind of joke about it, but I think everything's on the table moving forward.
Yeah.
Because you're going to have some form of agreement. You're going to have a collective bargaining with these players. Are they going to become school employees? You got to deal with the insurance, salary caps. I talked about it yesterday. We've got to now get into the mindset in college football that this is NFL light, meaning get ready because it's probably not going to happen a lot moving forward. Teams going undefeated to win a national championship. I know Bama Hater does not like to hear us talk about a 2 or 3 loss team making the college football playoff, but it's going to happen, and you're going to have someone win the Natty that's got that record. I mean, we have seen countless times teams make it to the Final Four. I mean, I'll go back to Bart Heitch at Mississippi State. What was Mississippi State's record when they made it to the Final Four that year?
I will have to look.
I mean, if I'm not mistaken.
Look at Alabama this past year.
Correct. But I'm just referring to a team that a little bit above 500, but they made the big dance. They got on a run, and they got to play for a national championship. So I think you're going to see a multiple loss team in this college football playoff expansion era, and they will find a way to get to the national championship game.
No, I mean, it's like you said. I mean, last year, for example, in the NFL, were the Chiefs the best team in the regular season? No, but they won the Super Bowl. I mean, you had 2 wild card teams that barely got in the playoffs in Major League Baseball that ended up playing in the World Series. I know it's weird because we think college is different than that, but I think you're absolutely right. That's where we're going.
Mississippi State was 26-8 that year.
Okay, that wasn't the year I was thinking of then.
That was a pretty good record.
No, that was a great record. There was someone else.
Was it Georgia?
Or was it? No, South Carolina was pretty good.
But was it Georgia that year under Tubby Smith that made a deep run?
May have been. There was one team in the SEC that literally barely made the tournament, and they were like 4 or 5 games above 500.
I mean, heck, we don't have to go back very far. UCLA just a couple of years ago.
Yeah. But I was trying to equate it to an SEC team.
Right. And isn't that part of the reason we expanded the field?
Yes.
Is to have more teams, to have more intrigue where there wouldn't be so much scrutiny on 5, 6, 7. And they're playing really good football right now. Do you honestly believe that in certain years, these 4 teams are the best? You can make that argument most years, right?
A lot of the years, yeah. I think a good example of what you're talking about, you remember when North Carolina went to the national championship game a few years ago, and they were a 9 seed or whatever, and they were, it's North Carolina, but that was a bad year by their standards, and they go on to make the Final Four, play for the national championship.
Yeah, Corey brings up Ole Miss in baseball.
Great example.
A couple of years ago.
Great example.
Absolutely.
Yep.
But why stop? I'm to the point now with all of this. Why stop there? It's just, we're already waist deep in it. Let's have trades. Let's open it up. And here's my question. If they do, or they're deemed employees eventually, right? Can you have them sign non-competes?
I would assume you can.
Where, look, you can leave here. That's
I
fine.
mean, certain
but you're
st-
not going to Oxford, Mississippi to play for Lane Kiffin.
But certain states, they do not allow no competes.
Well, that's true.
So
Well, I wonder if it would be like how the portal was at a time, right? Like you could transfer within the same conference. You just couldn't play immediately. I don't know.
But see, now the players have so much power that they'll just get an attorney and go file a lawsuit.
Get it overturned.
Yeah.
You might miss a game or two, whatever. Well, there's a lot going on in the world of college football, but there's also a lot still going on in the world of Major League Baseball as the divisional series continue tonight. All 4 games going on tonight. And you can head over to Twin Peaks and Hoover to catch all the action tonight at the Lodge. Lock in on your favorite barstool and watch your team step up to the plate for a spot in the AL and NLCS at Twin Peaks and Hoover. They also sponsor our daily 3-man front Twitter poll question of the day, which today's poll question reads, if Vegas has adjusted its SEC championship odds, so who do you have winning the SEC this year? You have Texas, who is plus 125, Georgia at plus 400, Alabama plus 400, and then Texas A&M at plus 575. And as the voting stands right now, Texas in the lead with 47% of people picking them to win the SEC, Alabama in second with 36% of the vote, Georgia with 12%, and hey, 5% of the vote for A&M. That's a lot more than they would have gotten a week ago.
Imagine my surprise when I looked up and I saw this poll question, and Texas A&M had the 4th best odds to win the Southeastern Conference. It's not a shot at Texas A&M. I just did not think that we would be sitting here on this particular date that the Aggies would have that good of odds.
No. And especially with the way that their offense, you knew their defense was going to be solid, but the way their offense looked early in the season.
Better odds than Ole Miss or Tennessee.
I don't
or
doubt it.
LSU.
It's wild.
They still got some games left.
Do people down in Louisiana still think LSU's going to play for the national championship?
They're too focused on what happened in Nashville.
That's what I
We
heard.
got people dressing up like the Grim Reaper.
It's a
and
one-game
doing
season, Pat,
broadcasts.
and they're just ready for those Rebels to come marching in.
You mean you're ready for those Rebels to come march?
I just want the game over with. Let's just get it over with.
All right, it's the Wednesday edition of 3-Man Front. Brian Edwards will join us in about 30 minutes, get his picks. Man, he was on fire last weekend. Had to be paid very close attention to that segment. He gives some wonderful monetary advisement. So pay close attention to that. This is 3-Man Front on Jocks 94.5.
1021, three-man front, Landrum, Pat, Conrad. Hope Molly's feeling better. You can feel better about your roof without having to spend $15,000 to $20,000. That's the average cost of a new roof. If you have an older roof, we're thinking it may need to be replaced. You got to listen up. Our friends at Roof Max of Hoover have a professional and affordable roof treatment, scientifically proven to reduce the aging process of your asphalt roof. With Roof Max, you're going to have the protection of a brand new roof in only a few hours, plus save thousands with a safe, effective, and affordable natural treatment. Roof Max resaturates your old, dirty, dry shingles with a natural, bio-friendly treatment that can give you 5 more years of protection guaranteed. And if you flip houses, maybe you're a real estate agent, this is the perfect solution to extend the life of the roof. Get a free roof assessment from Roof Max of Hoover. Call or text them at 205-913-2243. Use promo code JOCKS for a 10% discount and the free roof assessment. Once again, 205-913-2243. That's Roof Max of Hoover. Pennies on the dollar as opposed to replacing your old roof.
Georgia wide receiver Colby Young was arrested on Tuesday on charges of battery and assault on an unborn child. Athens Clark County jail records show he was booked at 4:18 a.m. on a misdemeanor charge. A police report obtained by the Associated Press said the arrest followed an altercation with a 20-year-old woman who described herself to police as Young's ex-girlfriend and told officers she went to Young's apartment to speak about their relationship. She said the discussion became heated after she found out that he was on the phone with another woman. The woman told police Young physically pulled her out of his room and also grabbed her from behind, picked her up, and began to squeeze her torso and abdomen very hard. The woman told police she believed Young was trying to harm her. The arresting officer said Young denied being responsible for the bruise, discolorization, and redness the officer found on the woman, and denied grabbing her. Young's attorney, Kim Stevens, told the Associated Press in a statement Young did not harm the woman. Yesterday, when Kirby Smart was asked about the situation, Kirby said that he had not spoken with his wide receiver and that there was a lot of things that obviously had not come to light yet in the situation. Well, this morning on the SEC coaches teleconference, this is what Kirby Smart had to say about the arrest of Colby Young.
Yeah, I got to speak to him this morning, and he's been suspended indefinitely until this legal matter is resolved. And we can't really comment any further on the specifics of it, but I had a good meeting with him this morning. And, we're committed to continuing to educate our players and do the best job we can of making sure they understand the serious nature of these incidents. And it's very unfortunate, but we want to be responsible in decision making on and off the field, and this is obviously a really tough situation. But he's suspended indefinitely until the legal matter is resolved.
So that was Kirby Smart this morning on the SEC coaches teleconference. Yesterday, you could tell he was very frustrated because the first 3 questions had to deal with this. And to the reporters' credit, they were trying to pose the question in a different form. It was like watching Jeopardy. They were basically asking the same thing, but they were coming at Kirby in a completely different way. And to Kirby's credit, Kirby did not lose his cool. Kirby answered the questions, but basically the same thing was, it's an ongoing investigation, cannot comment on it. And he reiterated, just like he did in that clip, that they continue to educate. They bring speakers in. They bring them from the NFL. They bring them from Atlanta. They bring them from all over the place to try to talk to these kids, not only about the ongoing issues with driving by being a University of Georgia football player, but also domestic issues. This is not the first time that they have had some domestic abuse allegations and charges against their football players.
Well, and I don't want to compare this situation to the other. This is a he said, she said, and unfortunately, this is a guy that you need at the wide receiver position because of Ra Thomas. We know what happened there, and that was portrayed as it looked like that was a much different, and that was a pattern where it had happened before. In this instance, I don't know what's going on with that young man, but hopefully he and the mother of his unborn child or her unborn child is okay and everything gets worked out. But you don't have any choice if you're Kirby Smart right now. You got to sit him and let the legal process play out. We know that can be really slow, Conrad.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully it's not the situation that it seems to be. You just hope that moving forward, they're able to make better decisions, and it's great that he or Kirby wants to preach about trying to teach and educate these players. And I'm not going to sit here and act like I don't think they're trying to be proactive about the situation, but clearly there's still a disconnect, and these problems continue to arise. And until there's a significant amount of time in between these types of incidents, it's going to be the narrative about that football program and something that needs to change.
They've got Mississippi State coming up this weekend, and watching Kirby's press conference from yesterday, and it kind of stayed on the theme, just like the Vanderbilt defeating Alabama, that, you look at what Mississippi State did in Austin this last weekend, late third quarter before Texas really kind of took control of that game. So based on what Lebby can do, and you get a hot quarterback and a hot hand, we've seen it numerous times. I'm not proclaiming that Mississippi State's going to pull an upset, but who would have thought Vandy would have pulled the upset last week? I think all teams now in the SEC need to be on red alert. That if this is not a wake-up call from an upset standpoint, you better get there, because all it takes is one Saturday afternoon of a hot quarterback. Ask Stephen Garcia in Columbia, South Carolina against Alabama.
Well, they're going to be motivated because who talked to the team yesterday, right?
Yeah.
I mean, when Kirk Cousins graces you with his presence, I mean, that's all the motivation.
It was weird seeing him in the practice facility wearing a Georgia Bulldog collared shirt.
Yeah.
But he pointed out that his wife was a huge Georgia Bulldog fan.
Braves fan, Georgia fan. I guess it cancels out. It's fine.
I mean, his wife's from Atlanta or somewhere around. Like, there was a reason that he went back there. There's a family connection to it. But that was cool to see him going and talking with the team.
Guys, I've screwed up in big moments. I've had everything sitting right there on the table.
Well, he has gotten better in prime time.
He has gotten better in prime time.
Significantly.
I mean, he was like 0 for 11 or some crazy stat.
He is such a nice guy.
Oh, yeah. I don't think there's anybody that doesn't like him. I mean, maybe he's a little corny, but
that's fine.
That's
he's
fine.
a nice guy.
Yeah, exactly. He's a good dude. He seems like it.
Last night in college football, Liberty did not play that game. Did you play it?
Mm-mm.
Did you play it? No.
Nope.
Liberty was a big favorite
17.5
at home, and they won in overtime, 31-24. They forced a fumble on 3rd and 2 in overtime. But how about Liberty running back Quentin Cooley, 174 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns last night for Liberty. Their winning streak now in the regular season is up to 17 games for Liberty.
Conrad, you just play your schedule. Quit laughing.
Right.
Quit laughing.
No, I credit to them for...
They've won all the games that they have been asked to play.
And I credit them for that. They just have
in the regular season.
They have the softest schedules
regular season.
What a great job.
17 in a row.
What a great job. $4+ million a year. Everything you need.
Playing golf every single day.
Unlimited fake snow. I mean, come on.
You have the artificial snow resort.
But I want to go back to the fact that you could play golf
every single day. That'd be a tough gig to leave.
Did we mention that you play golf every day as the head coach at Liberty? Did I mention that?
That'd be a really tough place to leave. A little different for him now,
isn't it? A little different.
Well, who are you referring to?
Just some coach in their past.
Well, tonight
was it? Are you talking about what's his name? Turner Gill.
Oh, I forgot about Turner.
You forgot
Gill.
Turner Gill was there, didn't
That's
you?
the one.
I did forget.
That is the one I was talking about.
Yep.
Could have been the Auburn coach. Charles Barkley wanted Turner Gill.
Auburn's made some bad hires.
You brought it up, so
I know Auburn's made some bad hires. That is a hire I think that everybody probably glad that they didn't make.
Yeah, for once you didn't listen to Charles Barkley. Tonight you've got New Mexico State and Jack State. Jack State 2-3 on the season, 1-0 in Conference USA. That is a 6:30 kickoff on ESPN2. The Vegas line, the Gamecocks, a 20.5-point favorite, total 58.5.
Well, if the trend continues, does a short week, does that favor underdog?
I'm going all in on JSU tonight.
They burn me. Two different
Wednesday
seasons.
night lock of the year?
I wouldn't go that far.
Okay, we're not there yet.
Not yet.
Luck of the year.
It's
I
gonna
just
be
remember
a-
the last time Pat had a lock of the year with JSU, it didn't go well. So
No, it didn't. And I'm so glad that you brought that up.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, you cursed them. Don't.
I do not remember that.
Mm-hmm. We do. We keep
I do not
receipts.
remember that being my CUSA Wednesday night lock of the year.
might not have been a Wednesday night.
It.
Trying
Yeah,
to
it
remember
was
what day it
definitely. It
was.
was definitely a lock of the
It
year.
was definitely a lock of something, the century or the decade or something.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be a beautiful night in East Alabama, 71 degrees.
Great football weather.
Yeah.
More three-man front here on this Football Wednesday on Jocks 94.5. They're singing that song in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania this morning. Mets beat the Phils last night, 7-2. How about this, man? This is a great story. So Sean Manaea, he signs a 2-year, $28 million deal with the Mets back in January, okay? On the same day, he learned that his older brother David passed away from cancer. The lefty, who wears number 59 to honor his late brother, throws 7 scoreless innings as the Mets take a 2-1 series lead over the Phillies. Now, is that not cool or what?
That's really cool.
That is very cool.
Pete Alonso and Jesse Winkler, they homered. Mets lead the series 2-1. Game 4 is today at Citi Field. Rangers Suarez will be on the bump. He is on the hill for Philadelphia. Jose Quintana will be pitching for the Mets. So the Mets can.
Conrad and I were talking about The Office. You know who's going to have a huge night? Unfortunately, we're going to have landfall with a hurricane. Nick Castellanos.
Yeah, go ahead and smash that anytime home run bet. It's inexplainable.
I
No,
know,
it's
we-
not.
It's
yeah,
happened
you're right.
too many
No,
times.
It's not coincidence.
No, there's I don't know what it is.
Yeah, we've talked about it at great length on this program at the wackiness.
Yeah, you could make the argument with 3 different occasions him doing it and saying, yeah, well, that's just kind of crazy the way it happened. But
Well,
I mean, what was the laundry list of?
It was like 11. There was like 11
It's-
things that happened
so-
within like a
and for
24-hour
the way
period.
it started to the how
Right.
it's escalated.
So
it's unreal.
Pat brought up, and it was you that brought up all of the timeline of
Mhm.
Nick Castellanos, who plays for the Phillies. But anytime, is it just tragedy or just a big event?
It's a big event.
Just a big event that happens in this country or around the world. Nick Castellanos, when he plays on that day, goes off.
Mm-hmm. So like you said, with the hurricane scheduled to hit Florida. Yeah. San Diego knocks off LA last night 6-5. So now the Dodgers are one game away from being eliminated.
Tatis has been so insane for them in these. He's the best player in baseball right now.
Well, it's a
These
good
past
thing because
couple
they're
weeks.
They're
gave
paying him.
They paid him a lot of money and they locked him up
You
for
think
18
he's back on
years.
the steroids?
I don't even care anymore.
6 runs in the second inning. So they hold now a 2-1 series lead. So we got baseball this afternoon at 2:08. First pitch. The Guardians and the Tigers. Maybe that's why Molly's not here today.
That's exactly
That's
what
exactly
it is.
what
She's
it is.
pre-gaming for the Tigers
Yep,
game.
there's no doubt. She's in a parking lot of her apartment doing some tailgating.
I was
Philadelphia.
like, where is this
What?
going?
What?
Philadelphia at New York. That's a 4:08 first pitch. The Yankees and the Royals right across the street from Patrick Mahomes Stadium. That's at 6:08. And then the Dodgers and Padres at 8 o'clock tonight. So could be some sad folks. The Dodgers and Phillies, all that money they spent in the offseason, don't even get to the National League Championship Series.
You hate to see it.
You know,
we
I
get
hate
Mets
to
and
see it.
Padres and Tigers and Royals.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
So far, the ratings for Major League Baseball playoffs are up 41%. So America is all about the teams that are in the playoffs.
I was about to say we've had
right
really
now.
good series so far.
Well,
as
you've got some really good markets too that you're drawing from.
Mm-hmm. You do.
New York times 2, LA, San Diego, Philly. Nothing to sneeze at.
Yeah, that certainly helps. But well, as you move away, or as we move further away from the hot weather, you need to know that your HVAC system has worked overtime all summer long for you, and make sure that you are now prepared for the months and years ahead with a Trane Comfort System. Because right now, Trane's Unstoppable event offers you peace of mind with a 10-year warranty on parts and labor with select Trane home comfort systems. To learn more, go visit Trane.com today.
800-239-WJOX. First time caller. Don, welcome in.
That was a good one. First time caller, all right.
For today, right?
That's right. Well, actually, Conrad to tell you, I've already called into Damien and them this morning. But yeah, hey, real quickly before I start and everything, my prayers are out to everybody that we know down in Florida. And PG, if you're listening, buddy, I know you still have family down there. I'm thinking about you and your family, brother. But also, too, speaking of that, Pat, they had to postpone the Stallions event tomorrow night. So anybody that was coming, they have postponed that to a later date.
Yes,
by the way.
and we will not. We had planned to have Coach Skip Holtz in studio at 10:30 tomorrow, but because of the hurricane and his family residing there in Central Florida, we're putting that off. So we'll reschedule and hopefully we'll get Coach Holtz in very soon.
That's right. Anything. But hey, Landry, by the way, before I talk a little sports with you, with my buddy Gary, he always puts y'all's bowling stuff on Facebook and everything.
I'm sorry, that was a bad night.
How did you bowl last night, brother?
I bowled terrible. We didn't bowl well. We only got 2 points. So
yeah, that's what. Well, how did my other buddy Jimmy Webby do last night, Landrum? Shout out to Jimmy, by the way.
I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus. Just collectively, it was not our best night. See-
But y'all have been doing really well, is what Gary's been telling me.
Yeah, we were eight out of first going into last night, but we did not.
There
go
you
well.
go. There you go. Well, hey, I got a question, and did anybody? Well, I know you were bowling last night, but Pat, did you watch any of the Liberty game last night?
I certainly did.
Okay. With Auburn looking up for a transfer quarterback. Oh, sorry about that. That's my smoke detector beeping. Batteries down on it. Anyway, what would you think about Auburn looking at Caden Salter, Pat?
You know, he didn't have good numbers last night, but he made a couple of throws that I was very impressed with. He threw the deep ball extremely well. So
yeah, and he runs the ball well too.
Yeah, but I mean, he's got 191 yards on the year, 7 touchdowns, 1 interception, but his completion percentage is around 56%. I think that if they do go into the portal, they will aim higher. No disrespect to Caden Salter.
Yeah, I don't think he'd be. Oh man,
Goodness
sorry
gracious.
About that, guys. Hang on, I'm gonna step outside. Anyway, guys, no. Now that would not be worth $2 million, Landrum. I wouldn't think that.
No, not at all.
But hey, speaking of baseball, when y'all talking about baseball a minute ago, if y'all get a chance, go onto the Auburn on 3 site. They put a really nice video out today of the progress of the Plainsman Park and everything. Because they're basically going to double the size down at Auburn for our baseball field, and that's going to look beautiful. I don't know if y'all seen any of the videos of that yet.
I have not, but I will check it out.
Yeah, it's going to be absolutely gorgeous. I think they're going to go up to about what is it? I think it holds about 4,000 or 5,000 now, and I think it's going to be about 10,000 now down there. I think
it's a beautiful facility.
Oh yeah. Auburn's just what I think about my Auburn Tigers. It's just a beautiful campus and everything. We'll be back in football, but hey, like I told y'all, kidding y'all yesterday, 30 days to basketball, fellas. I always got me Bruce Pearl in my back pocket. Okay.
There you go. Well, thanks, Don.
Thanks, Don. Appreciate you.
Appreciate the call. Coming up next on 3-Man Front, we'll go down to the state of Florida, Santa Rosa Beach. We'll talk to Brian Edwards from Vegas Insider next on 3-Man Front. It is 1047, Jocks 94.5. Vegas Insiders Brian Edwards are joining us momentarily. When it comes to plumbing, always have a pro on standby. That's Iron Mountain Drains and Plumbing, rated A+ by the Better Business Bureau. They're family owned and operated. They handle everything: faucet repairs, water heater maintenance, commercial plumbing, sewer line repairs, and so much more. One call will do it all for you. Put it in your phone right now, 205-516-4927, or go to ironmountainworld.com for a free quote. Big or small, Iron Mountain Drains and Plumbing does it all. That number again, 205-516-4927.
Brian Edwards, BrianEdwardsSports.com, our Vegas Insider joining us. All of our guests join us on the Buyers Right Hotline. Brian, unfortunately, the state you reside in gearing up and bracing for another hurricane that's set to make landfall later on this evening.
Yeah, we're getting really lucky here in Northwest Florida. We're not really going to be affected. In fact, it's nothing but blue skies out my window right now. And in fact, we're not going to have any. Anyway, I mean, the Gulf does not look, Bahamas blue or emerald blue like it normally does right now, because the Gulf's all churned up. But it's good. We're getting real lucky here.
Well, let's talk some college football this week. The one that I think that you probably like, based on my insiders telling me what you were kind of favoring right now, is Pitt -3 versus California. And I know that Pitt is undefeated against the spread this year.
Yep, 5-0, both straight up and against the spread. And Eli Holstein, the Alabama transfer QB, is the main reason why. 65.5 completion percentage, 1,564 passing yards, a 15-3 TDI&T ratio, also 265 rushing yards, 3 touchdowns, and a 5.5 yards per carry average. And Pitt is 4th nationally in total offense, 6th in both passing yards and scoring. And Cal's in a brutal spot. This is their 3rd time traveling east in the last, into the Eastern time zone in the last 5 weeks, and obviously coming off deflating Heartbreak Hotel. I absolutely love Pitt. -3. I made the number 6.
Another game out of college football, out of the SEC. Vanderbilt riding high after the upset win over Alabama and Nashville. They got to go on the road, take on a Kentucky team there in Lexington. I can see where a lot of people would probably start fading the Commodores, thinking that they were riding high and this is a perfect setup game. What do you think? Do you like the Commodores heading into this matchup and going on the road?
I do, even though it's a vintage letdown situation, but I just think that the letdown aspect has been way too cooked into the line. I made Kentucky an 8-point favorite. I'm just a believer in Diego Pavia. I mean, they've been double-digit underdogs 3 times this year. They're 3-0 against the spread, 2 outright wins. The lone defeat was an overtime game against Missouri. Now, I know Missouri's kicker struggled that game too, but Vandy's kicker had a chance to win that game. So, and Pavia just, playing out of his mind, 66.7 completion percentage, 973 passing yards, 8 touchdowns without an interception, 336 rushing yards, and 2 touchdowns. And I just love how Vandy's playing. I bought the half point from 13.5 to 14. And for a much smaller amount, I just did a baby play on Vandy plus 400 on the money line. But yeah, and I normally don't like the best teams that are in really bad, situational spots, if you will. But again, I just think that's way too cooked into the spread this week on this game.
All right, let's talk about your Florida Gators. They get a win at home against Central Florida. They're up on Rocky Top taking on the Tennessee Volunteers, who's coming off a surprising loss to Arkansas. And I think the line is 15.5, that the Florida Gators are an underdog. What do you like here?
Yeah, this is a smaller play than Vandy and Pitt, but I'm going to go with the Gators plus 15.5. Florida 17-2 straight up, 14-5 against the spread the last 19 head-to-head meetings with Tennessee. And Florida, I'm not implying it's a big deal, but they have got a little bit of momentum, back-to-back wins at Mississippi State and over UCF by double-digit margins. And Napier, as a double-digit underdog at Florida, is 4-2 against the spread. But when he was at Louisiana, he was 5-1-1 against the spread. So overall, as a head coach, when a double-digit dog, Napier 9-3-1 against the spread. And Tennessee produced all those, offensive numbers against Chattanooga, NC State, and Kent State. But the last two games, only 25 points against Oklahoma, only 14 against Arkansas. So I think Florida can score on Tennessee. I mean, I think Florida's defense remains garbage for, fourth straight year? Fifth straight year. We've been absolutely atrocious on defense. But I think Florida can score on them, and they're probably going to, or I hope they're going to get Eugene Wilson back. Apparently he was close to playing this past week, and he's obviously Florida's best offensive weapon. So if they get him back, that's going to be another boost to the offense. Give me the Gators plus 15.5.
A few more moments with our Vegas insider, Brian Edwards. He joins us, as all of our guests do, on the Buyers Right Hotline. From the college ranks, let's go to the pros. Who are you eyeing this NFL weekend?
Well, I'm going to keep riding the Commanders. I've been on them successfully 4 weeks in a row. I made Baltimore -4. We can get them at 6.5. But let's buy the half point. It's a key number of 7. Jaden Daniels is obviously playing spectacular. 4 wins and coverage in a row. I won't bore you with all the stats, but Commanders are on fire, and I like them. Let's buy the half point from 6.5 to 7.
All right, how about the Broncos? Broncos got a win over the weekend against the Raiders. Nix is playing pretty well, although him and Sean Payton got into it on the sideline on Sunday afternoon. You like to ride the Broncos as an underdog this weekend?
So this will be the third weekend of successfully back-to-back week. I made the Broncos 3-point favorites to the Chargers. They're 3-point underdogs. So I'm going with Denver. Nick 4 interceptions in the first 2 games. They lost 12. He has not committed a turnover in the last 3 games, and they've won 3 times. And he throws 3 touchdown passes without a pick. And Denver defensively, third in the NFL in total defense, and scoring defense. And pass. The defense is legit. Chargers dealing with some injuries. Both their offensive tackles missed the Chiefs game. Had 2 weeks since then, but they're both very questionable. If not at full speed or not on the field, bad news against Denver's defense. And then one more NFL play. Let's go to Giants Bengals over 48.5. Over sitting 4 straight. The Bengals high scores of 51, 71, 58, and 79. I'm hoping the Giants will get Malik Neighbors back this week, and their offense, showed some life even without him last week. So let's go over 48.5 on the Bengals. And if the Bengals get the 3, they're 3.5 now. If they get the 3, I like the Bengals -3 in a desperation game. Or if you can buy the 3 without them charging you like 130 juice or more, also like the Bengals if you can get it -3.
And Brian, for our listeners, Brian Edwards, his phone was breaking up a little bit. We'll confirm his picks, though, and we will relay them to you because that is often asked about by our listeners. Who did Brian take today? So we'll confirm those with you off the air, Brian. We always appreciate it. Know that you're not in the projected path of the storm, but be safe, and our thoughts and prayers with everyone there in the state of Florida.
Thanks, guys. Y'all have a great weekend.
You as well. Brian Edwards joining us. All of our guests join us on the Buyers Right Hotline for all of your insurance, financial, and HR needs. It's Buyers Right Insurance, a Higginbotham partner.
All right, so he liked Pitt -3. He liked Vandy +14. Florida +15.5. Commanders +7. Broncos +3. He likes the over in the Bengals Giants of 48.5, but then it was breaking up. But I think if I heard him correctly, he said that if you can get the Bengals 3.
If you get the Bengals at -3, he likes the Bengals.
Okay, that's what I thought he said. So that was Brian Edwards' picks that he does completely free as he comes on and gives us his Vegas insider information.
That's right. It's just he's not touting anything.
No,
he's just being a good Samaritan.
Good friend.
If he wins.
If he loses, I'm texting him left and right. I'm like, what are you doing? You're killing us.
Well, there's a lot of people feeling that way wearing crimson, including one Conrad Van Order, voice of the Crimson Tide. He witnessed it firsthand. Might be painful, but that's part of the therapy. Chris Stewart, courtesy of our friends at Craneworks, recaps the game versus Vandy and the look ahead as South Carolina rolls into Bryant-Denny on Saturday. 3-man front here on this Wednesday. Jocks 94.5, JocksFM.com, the Jocks 94.5 app, and wherever you find people stream.
Welcome back in. It's hour number 2 of Three Man Front on this Wednesday. Pat Smith, Landry Roberts, Conrad Van Order, Molly Robinson, hopefully back with us tomorrow. A little bit under the weather today. Hope you're feeling better. Molly, sure she'll be trying to watch the Tigers game this afternoon. His first pitch for them is at 2 o'clock. A little bit of update out of the state of Arkansas. Remember, Taylon Green had exited the game against Tennessee the other night. Of course, Arkansas wins the game. But a little bit of an update on Taylon Green. He is day-to-day right now. They hope to have him back by the LSU game. No ligament damage, not an MCL. It's just a bone bruise. So that is good news for the Arkansas Razorbacks. But based on what you saw in the second half of that game, Landrum, maybe there'll be a quarterback controversy moving forward. I'm not really sure.
There might be. Can I just point out, and it was the text that Conrad sent us going back to Major League Baseball and the playoffs today. Nervous about the Guardians matchup in Detroit this afternoon. There's no tougher place to play in the middle of the workday than the city that leads the nation in unemployment.
Ouch.
It's pretty good.
It's really
Pretty
creative.
good.
Ouch. Every Wednesday, we get a chance to catch up with the voice of the Alabama Crimson Tide. It's brought to you by Craneworks. Chris Stewart.
Lift it, load it, grade it, grind it, move it, haul it, rig it, dig it, Craneworks, Rentalworks, yeah, the big dog's got it.
Crimson Tide Network's Chris Stewart on Three Man Front is brought to you by Craneworks. Lift it, buy it, rent it. The big dog's got it. And now, Chris Stewart.
Chris joins us on the Buyers Right Hotline. I hope you're doing well on this Wednesday, Chris.
I am. I'm better than I was Saturday night, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. The further I get away from it, the better I am. And I'm nowhere near as good as I was this time last week. But sun's shining, God's in his heavens, all right with the world. We're just 4-1, unfortunately.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you just the emotional roller coaster that is SEC football. And fortunately for Alabama fans and yourself being the voice of Alabama for so many years, you've not had to experience as much of that over the course of the last 17 years. Just take us back to Saturday, and as this started to unfold, did you look at Tyler Watts and say, we got a ball game on our hands. This is going to be a rough afternoon.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, when it's 13-0, you're still not in panic mode. In fact, they missed the extra point. You're going, okay, that may – hopefully it's not going to be a one-point game. But if it is, then that one's for one that's going to bite them. And to Vanderbilt's credit, they never let Alabama take the lead. They never let it get to a point where they had to go, uh-oh, here we go. And I think if you could find a way to get that to happen, you know, it might look different. But look, there's a million things you can break down and dissect and criticize where Alabama's concerned. No doubt, 100% would agree. But there comes a point you got to give the opposition a little bit of credit. There were many times they could have folded, let the moment get too big for them, and they didn't. And that's, you know, again, that's to their credit. Yes, there's blame for Alabama for not getting the job done, but also, you know, some plays that Vanderbilt made when it would have been, when Bama did put pressure on them, but they didn't wilt under the pressure. That was, unfortunately, a really good job on their part to take advantage of those moments, and Alabama had their chances and didn't. And while that may not have been the difference in the game going the way we all anticipated it going, it certainly was the difference in winning and losing.
And we've all, whether it's calling a game, working a game, Chris, or as fans, we have all had those moments, no matter the sport, where you're sitting there and you're in disbelief and you're wondering what happened, and oh my gosh, I can't believe what I'm watching. As Vanderbilt was in the victory formation, did you find yourself thinking, wow, this reminds me of this particular game or this moment in your illustrious career?
That was nice of you to use that word.
I tried.
First of all, but it was, look, man, it's highly disappointing, and yeah, you're kind of shell-shocked in the moment, but that was far from the most shell-shocked I've felt. You know, losing a national championship on the final play to Clemson was really, really, really gut-wrenching. The kick six, where if you win, you're going to play for history, and it's probably going to happen. And instead, you've not only lost your chance at a national championship, a historic third in a row, you've lost to your most bitter rival in the most disgusting of facts. But it is that truth is, other than a person, you haven't, other than the in East Alabama some grief because they lost, and yeah, you lost too. But in terms of what's tangible with a berth in the SEC championship game and the national championship playoff as well, nothing's changed other than your margin for error has gotten smaller.
I was talking to Conrad, Chris, in regards to being on the air as long as I've been on the air and thinking about all those Mondays after Northern Illinois knocked off Alabama at Bryant-Denny.
Oh, yeah.
Or Central
Absolutely.
Florida beating Alabama at Bryant-Denny Stadium. I mean, so there was a lot of other big detrimental losses. It's just the fact that over the last 17 years, those type of games that you were supposed to win, they were taken care of. They might have been difficult at times, but you never had a full meltdown like you did in Nashville over the weekend. So let's not take away anything from Vanderbilt, because we all agree they played an outstanding football game. It wasn't a fluke. But moving forward, what are the areas that you believe that Alabama better shore up and better shore it up pretty quick? Because you got South Carolina coming in licking their wounds, but they're an SEC opponent, and then you're going to East Tennessee next week.
Got to get off the field on third or fourth downs, whichever it happens to be, because fourth down was the issue against Georgia. Third down was clearly the issue against Vanderbilt. You know, if they are 10 of 15 rather than 12 of 18, that game may have looked, the result may have been different, but they got so many of their first downs on third down. I think it had a cumulative effect mentally and physically on the defense. So you can't let South Carolina keep the ball as long as they did. The offense can't give it up, and certainly can't give them points. But I think you also have to continue to believe and trust in who you are offensively. Obviously, they'd love to run it better, more effectively. I think you'll see them probably try to do that and work that more into the game plan this week. But, you know, South Carolina, at least, I don't think anybody a week ago would have said Vandy is better than South Carolina. So this is a very dangerous team where you can't just treat it as a glorified scrimmage trying to get better, or you'll have the same result last week. I think this team will be highly motivated, highly focused this week in practice, and that's not a commentary on the previous week. I'm just telling you that whatever good feeling they had about themselves after Georgia is clearly minimized after a very, very tough loss on Saturday.
You know, and Chris, we're all experts watching games, and we could all do it better than the coordinator or the head coach. Kane Womack, Alabama defensive coordinator, he's catching a lot of criticism. Maybe some of it is deserved, and that comes with the territory. But to your point, when Alabama did get pressure on Diego Pavia, it's danged if you do, danged if you don't, because he can burn you. He can extend plays in so many different ways.
Yeah, you know, to your earlier, your first point on that, you know, Wimp always said, you know, I'd never try to be an attorney or a surgeon or a dentist, but man, every one of them thinks they coach basketball. Well, that's the way it goes with football, obviously, too. That being said, you know, Pavia's a heck of a football player. Auburn knows it. They faced him last year. And here's part of it. I'm not, again, for 1 second trying to deflect the fact that Alabama lost to Vanderbilt. But if you're asking my opinion on how do we get here, how does this happen? Because you've got more good players at most Division I Power 4 programs now than we've ever had. Vanderbilt's got more players you look at and go, well, you know, they could start at the D1 level. They can play at a program and get playing time because of the portal and the way things work with NIL. In the past, you would have had a Diego Pavia at Vanderbilt. I mean, Vandy's had some playmakers at quarterback. It's rare in their history that they have. But guess what? When they've had them, that's when they've been most competitive. That's when they've been most dangerous. And they've pulled off upsets. Were they of this magnitude? No. But they've pulled off upsets. So when you got a guy with a football in his hands that can make plays, it's where a team is dangerous and can give you the most fits. Alabama's got to find a way to get off the field in late drive situations. They've got to contain things better than they did. Vandy shouldn't have run the football as effectively as they did, but with the misdirection they use, with the different looks that they use, I mean, you know, yes, that's something Kane Womack looks at. It's probably something other offensive coordinators look at and go, all right, we're not going to become an option team when we play Alabama. We can't change who we are, but maybe we throw a wrinkle here or there that can give them problems or give them a different look that was definitely an issue in the game against Vandy. So there's a lot on tape to pick apart right now for Alabama defensively. Biggest thing, though, that I saw is not even misdirection, even though they did a great job with schemes, he had too many missed tackles. There were too many yards after contact in that game. Part of that's fatigue and being on the field as much as they were. But regardless, you got to wrap up. You got to make plays better on defense when you got an opportunity. You got to keep your head about you. That's obvious. That's been addressed. That's been handled internally, and it was handled publicly by Malachi. And Pat, you and I both know him and the family and have for a long time.
Yep.
I'm not justifying it, not condoning it, but man, I would hate for my worst moments to be on a field. I started saying in front of 100,000, but 28,000 in a national television audience. That'd be a lot. The kids owned up to it. And again, it's being dealt with by the staff publicly and privately. He has admitted the issue, and you move on with it. And that's where I think they are. And, you know, this is a time where you don't need to splinter from within or from those that are part of your fan base. It's when you need to rally the most. Again, it's not where you say that, oh, it's okay or it's acceptable, but you get behind your guys because they're your guys. And they don't need you when everything's going perfect. They need you when they're struggling. So I hope it's going to be a really good atmosphere, and I fully expect it to be when that one kicks off at 11 o'clock on Saturday.
It's very interesting, Chris, because you were able to be around Kalen DeBoer on the highest of highs after knocking off number 1 Georgia, and then you were with him after, obviously, the surprising loss in Nashville. Kind of compare the two. I got a feeling I know what the answer is going to be, but I just, for someone that has to spend that much time with him, just kind of take us there.
Yeah, you're right in what you're anticipating hearing. But I'm glad you asked the question because it's the case. I've talked about how steady he is. Look, and don't misread. Against or after the Georgia game, he was excited. He was in a good mood. But I have seen coaches in various sports that, you know, they get a win in a midweek baseball games and they're hugging like they've won a championship. And it bothered me, and I turned out to be dead on the money in my assessment of where we were headed on something in that regard. But also, if the guy's throwing stuff and completely out of character and this is going to sound like I'm taking a shot, and I'm not. Okay, please understand. I'm just giving an example. But if he had done some of the things that Malachi did, then you'd be really concerned. The fact is, he was an adult and had things in the right perspective after the win. He was an adult, he was a leader, and he had things in the right perspective. He wasn't in a good mood, but he also wasn't acting like the season was over, which is great because it's not. And he managed that in my interaction with him the way you would hope the coach of your football team does. And thankfully, because of that, I think it's one of the reasons that this team is going to be fine going forward. Doesn't mean it's going to be perfect. Doesn't mean it's always going to look the way we think it ought to look. Doesn't mean, here's the other part, and I'll leave this alone. When you lose at a place where you're not accustomed to losing, you tend to, and I've seen this so many places. This is not just Alabama, but people tend to bring up other things because what they're most mad about, they feel like is not enough. It would be perfectly fine, and there's no way you can argue somebody saying, you know what, we're Alabama, we shouldn't have lost to Vandy, I'm not happy about it, we need to be better. Who in their right mind could argue with that? Nobody. But when you start complaining about things, well, he ought not be wearing a T-shirt on the sideline.
Ice cream and music, Chris, at practice.
Oh, my gosh.
That's what did it.
These are the things. Yeah. Those are things you're looking for stuff at that point. I'm not saying you're not entitled to your opinion because you are, but I think those are things you're just trying to add to your point or what is truly at the heart of it. You're upset because we lost, and you know what? Everybody that loves Alabama or cares about the program is, but nobody more so than the coaches and players that are the Alabama football team.
He is Chris Stewart. He is the voice of the Crimson Tide. And Chris, you join us every single week, and your visits are made available by our good friends at Craneworks.
Yep, and they've got a division called Wasteworks. It's another Craneworks company that provides roll-off dumpster rentals in the Birmingham area. They got a range of sizes and fast service. They're your local source for dumpster rentals. Visit wasteworksusa.com for a quote. Put all your bad thoughts and energy in one of those Wasteworks dumpsters and let them haul it off, and let's clean up and get ready for a new week and the rest of the season starting on Saturday.
Conrad Van Order is taking notes. Boy. He's taking notes. You just gave him so much good advice.
Good.
Very much so. Hey,
You're
Chris,
welcome.
Always appreciate it. Have a great call Saturday morning. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate it. That is Chris
y'all
Stewart.
very much.
Thank
Take
you,
care.
Chris. Chris Stewart, brought to you by Craneworks. He joined us on the Buyers Right Hotline.
Well, ever thought about what you do if a cyber attack, a database loss, or connectivity issue hit your business? You need responsive, proactive, fast, reliable IT solutions to help your business grow and to stay safe from those cyber attacks. Evolve IT that can handle all of your IT and protect your business systems with the most advanced cybersecurity tactics. Book an IT inspection today. That's a $3,000 value, absolutely free to you. Learn more at evolv.us. That's Evolve IT.
Coming up at the bottom of the hour, we'll head to the state of South Carolina, Charleston, South Carolina. We'll talk about South Carolina Gamecocks as they're making their way to Tuscaloosa. Also, Clemson appears to have turned the corner in the ACC. Scott Hamilton, columnist there at the Charleston Post-Courier, will join us at the bottom of the hour. This is Three Man Front on Jocks 94.5. We have some tackle football going on in East Alabama tonight as New Mexico State comes calling against the Gamecocks of Jacksonville State. Jacksonville State 2-3 on the season, 1-0 in Conference USA. They're a 20.5-point favorite. The over-under is 58.5. That game kicks off at 6:30 on ESPN2.
Well, if you need a pick-me-up like I do, that is Mystic Beverage. That's the sound of me popping the top of one of the Lift Blend featuring the CBD, the CBG, the Delta 9, the 5-HTP green coffee bean extract. It's going to boost both body and mind, and it is absolutely delicious. You can find it there in your local Piggly Wiggly. If they don't have it for some reason, make sure that you ask for it. Not only our friends at Mystic Beverage with the Lift, which I like to use here at work on the show, keeps you focused, keeps you with a high level of concentration, but they also have the Nirvanic, the High Heels Delta 9, the Broadway, and so much more, available in delicious flavors. This is a Southern Berry, but the mango, the watermelon, the blood orange, Beham Dog, who came to Social Taco yesterday, said, hey, Landrum, I took you up on that. You can try it as well. MysticBeverage.com, made in Blount County, Alabama. And by the way, it's not sweet. It's infused with some of these flavors, but it's not sweet. It's sparkling water, and it's delicious. MysticBeverage.com.
Just an incredible segment there with Chris Stewart. If you missed that interview, I strongly recommend that you go back and download the Three Man Front podcast. I want you to do that every day if you miss anything on the show, or go back in. Yep, absolutely. But outstanding perspective on this Alabama football team, what happened in Nashville, how this team is moving forward, what he anticipates for this weekend, and also for the future of this Alabama football team. So appreciate Chris Stewart and Craneworks.
Going back to the T-shirt thing, which is so stupid. But if I'm Kalen DeBoer, I go out there, I'm going Gene Stallings. Short sleeve shirt,
shirt with the tie,
gray pants. Just roll it.
Listen,
with cleats.
I will never forget when Mike Dubose was named the head coach at Alabama. That was a serious topic on our show every single day about what's he going to wear. Is he going to be like? Is he going to be like Stallings? You know, is he going to wear the tie? Is he going to wear like a, some type of pullover or whatever the case may be? And you remember Dubose did wear a tie.
He did.
And then the next coach, it was the same conversation. I'll never forget having Mike Price in our studio. Of course, Mike never got to coach a game during the regular season at the Alabama Crimson Tide.
Was he wearing a tie down there?
No, but I think he would have been a pullover guy.
He definitely would have been a pullover guy.
Yeah, he would not have been a tie.
Well, think about it. So Pat Dye, he wore the tie
and the baseball cap.
Terry Bowden, wore the tie,
baseball cap,
and I guess it was Tommy Tuberville that broke the trend. We used to see more ties. And now basketball coaches, they might as well just be going.
We saw during the pandemic
running down the street to get a coffee on a Sunday.
I mean, Mike Bray you remember that at Notre Dame? He wore shorts.
That was awful.
He wore shorts
with his old white guy white shoes and crew socks.
He would wear his Under Armour polo and then shorts.
That's what it's like. You can be relaxed. That's a little bit too relaxed. We don't want to see that. Do you remember when Dan Mullen wore shorts on the sideline? Mississippi State played South Alabama. Didn't they lose that game?
I believe you're correct.
But you want to do a double take. Tune in on a Saturday to a college football game in the SEC with an SEC team playing, and you see the coach wearing shorts.
I mean, and I understand it's different because it's the NFL, it's not college, and I know Alabama is its own special thing, but, I mean, dude, Bill Belichick's like the best coach of all time, and he wore cut-off hoodies on the sideline. So, because I think he was more focused on what was going to happen on the field on Sunday than what he was going to wear on the sideline. So,
Well, it goes back to what Chris said. People, when they get irritated about something, then all of a sudden they're going to unload the chamber with everything else that's irritating them about the program.
Oh, it's the same thing with the ice cream truck after practice.
Yeah, the music
at practice.
Roll Tide Willie being at practice.
Yeah.
And we predicted it.
Stuff.
We predicted it the first time that Kalen DeBoer experienced a loss. That was going to be the criticism. And Saban didn't do it this way. Program's gotten soft.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. I have not. Have any of you seen a quote or a comment from Nick Saban after the loss?
I have not.
I have not either. It will be interesting on game day, Saturday.
I'll tell you what I have seen, though. I guess Womack was wearing a hoodie still, but Sheridan and DeBoer were both wearing collared shirts at their press conferences on Monday.
I did notice that.
I can't remember what Womack was wearing, but I don't think he had one on. But especially for Sheridan, because that was the first time that he's done that. So people were.
Yeah,
pointing
DeBoer
that
had
out.
the collared shirt with the Tide inscription on the.
Yeah.
So
So maybe people are getting their wish. I don't know.
when we come back on Three Man Front, we will head to Charleston, South Carolina. We'll talk to Scott Hamilton, sports columnist there at the Charleston Post-Courier. We'll talk to him about the Gamecocks and Shane Beamer. Is he potentially on the hot seat? They're coming to Tuscaloosa this weekend. And also, has Dabo Swinney turned the corner? Are they the team to beat in the ACC? All that next on Three Man Front. We will head to Carolina, the southern portion of Carolina, in just a moment. Scott Hamilton will join us, outstanding columnist there at the Charleston Post-Courier, will join us next on Three Man Front.
Well, if you want to make the track to the Carolinas, why not do it in a new Ford from Dobbs Ford? It's the newest Ford dealership in town. They're located right there on Parkway East in Birmingham. Joey, Rachel Goshen, Austin Goshen, not just the Goshens, everybody that you encounter there at Dobbs, I promise you, from whatever they do, if it's parts department, if it's someone there in the sales department, maybe paint and body, you're going to be treated with the utmost level of respect. And it's really just a family feel. And they will treat you like you have known them forever. Dobbs Ford, that's what makes the difference there at Dobbs Ford. DobbsFordBirmingham.com. Top dollar for your trade. Total transparency throughout the whole process. They will beat any competitor's price. Largest showroom selection in the state of Alabama. F-150s, Explorers, Broncos, Bronco Sports. How about a Mustang? Trust me on this. Just go try it for yourself. Talk to one of the wonderful human beings that you're going to encounter there at Dobbs Ford on Parkway East, DobbsFordBirmingham.com. Make sure that you tell them that Landrum from Jocks 94.5 sent you.
Joining us now on the Buyer's Ride Hotline, Scott Hamilton, outstanding sports columnist there at the Charleston Post-Courier. He joins us here on Three Man Front. Hey, Scott, I hope you're well on this Wednesday.
I'm making a cup of coffee, man. Life is good for me.
Well, I noticed you were doing something. I didn't know when you're in the kitchenette or making you an omelet or what you were doing.
Keurig? Do you go single cup Keurig?
No, I have, and I'm going to get into a better room here. I have a Sensio, and what it is, instead of having those little K-cups, it's like a biodegradable pouch, and it makes your coffee really foamy and frothy and very, very hip. I'm very hip with this coffee.
Nice. Okay, we're in the market.
Yeah, so. Landrum's a big coffee drinker. I'm not.
Get the Sensio, brother. I'm telling you right now. I've got a espresso machine as well that I can send you a link for that I got for about $200, and it's outstanding.
I'm dangerous with espresso. I need to probably limit my intake on that.
I'm with you. I'll tell you though, the Sensio, you have a good cup of that in the morning, man, and you're ready to roll.
Can you spell it for me real quick? We're just giving them an infomercial, but
Senseo.
Sensio. Okay.
Pretty simple. That coffee update brought to you by Amazon. Columbia.
Brought to you by Sensio.
Juan Valdez.
Brought to you by Chambers Funeral Home.
Oh, my goodness. That is Scott Hamilton.
WKRP.
Yeah, exactly.
When they had the jingle about the funeral home, we need to get that next time I'm on.
Yes. Yeah, we'll most definitely do that. All right, let's talk about the South Carolina Gamecocks. Make Alabama fans feel better this week because it's been a rough week on the show after the Vandy loss. Do they have anything to worry about this weekend against the Gamecocks?
Bama will win by 40 and probably toss a shutout.
Wow.
How's that?
Okay.
Mark that, Conrad.
The sky's falling down there. I mean, I know cats are living with dogs and everything's just backwards, but I'm telling you, first of all, I think Bama has to toss a shutout. Kane Womack, I think he's studying harder than he's ever studied, preparing more than he's ever prepared. But when it comes to this South Carolina offense, man, if they just cover their gaps and cover their men, they're going to throw a shutout.
Have you found yourself watching former Auburn quarterback Robbie Ashford, wondering how he got away from the Plains?
He fumbled his way to South Carolina, man. Let me tell you, it's not good, brother. It's not good. I think Lenore Sellers has the talent, and he's South Carolina's QB1 as a freshman. I think he has the talent to be a really good quarterback in the Southeastern Conference. But when you bring in Robbie Ashford, they're only going to do one thing. He's going to run the football. It's all he's going to do. He had a couple of good passes, but he's going to run the football, and it usually doesn't end too well. So, man, they got problems in Columbia.
In regards to Shane Beamer and his future, not proclaiming that he's on any kind of proverbial hot seat, but just your thoughts on him and the kind of pressure he's under to try to get this thing to a certain level where you could potentially down the road, not maybe this year, but maybe the year after that, whatever the case may be, they could be in a conversation for a college football playoff berth.
He's got work to do. Shane's first of all, Shane's a top-notch human being. Everybody, I mean, he's not everybody's flavor. I'm not going to say that, but he's a really good dude, man. He's a good guy, and he's exactly what South Carolina needed at the moment they hired him, coming out of the Will Muschamp doldrums and all that. But he's got work to do, and he's got to do a better job of surrounding himself with competent people. Competent people. People forget Shane Beamer was never a coordinator. He was a tight ends coach. He's the son of a Hall of Famer, Frank Beamer at Virginia Tech, but he was never a coordinator. He kind of took the escalator up to head coach pretty quickly, but he's not done a good enough job surrounding himself with competent assistant coaches. We think about his first offensive coordinator, Marcus Satterfield, who's at Nebraska now. That offense survived year two of the Beamer era because they had Spencer Rattler. And make of that what you will. Spencer Rattler was a very talented quarterback. And they were able to overcome some problems with the offense from Marcus Satterfield because of the quarterback play. Now they've got Dowell Loggins, who his only previous college coaching experience was coaching tight ends at Arkansas. He was in the NFL, I think, for 5 years, and his offenses were at the bottom of the league every year. I mean, he was actually named worst play caller in the league twice. And so Shane's going to have to make a decision of, do I keep my wagon and my legacy through that hitched to Dow Loggins, or do I make a change and go out and get a more competent play caller? Because Shane's not on the hot seat right now, but you got to remember, Ray Tanner's gone. As soon as they find another athletic director, he's out the door. It's going to be first of the year or so. And then you're on the clock, because that guy's going to want to bring in his own coach and take care of his own business his own way. So if I'm Shane, I'm already making some calls to see who can come and run this offense.
Meanwhile, Scott, Dabo Swinney, Clemson, after falling in week 1 to the Georgia Bulldogs, all they've done is won. I realize that they have not played, as it turns out, they've just played their schedule. They haven't played the toughest schedule, but their offense, it's hard to argue with what they're doing, and finally seeing that come to fruition. Cade Klubnik, 14 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. And as I glance at the rest of the schedule, while some of these matchups look pretty daunting to begin the season, and you could have said coin flip, this is all carved out where Dabo and the kids, they could go 11-1 feasibly in the regular season.
They could go 11-1. Welcome to the ACC, man. Welcome to the ACC. All you got to do is be able to keep your head above water, and you'll get a playoff berth. I mean, I'm looking at the schedule as well. Maybe Pitt.
Possibly.
I'm still trying to.
Yeah.
Possibly, but maybe not. Virginia Tech is sitting there at 3-3. And by the way, Virginia Tech had 23 returning starters from last year, and they're sitting at 3-3.
Shame on Brent Pry.
Wow.
No doubt, man. But it is. Hey, if you guys ever get a chance, go to a night game in Blacksburg. It's off the hook. It's insane.
All right, so
I'm looking at this schedule. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say. So you think Pitt would be the only pitfall, maybe? No pun intended.
Unless something wacky happens in the South Carolina Clemson game. I mean,
you got Louisville, but you get Louisville at home.
Yeah.
So
you get Louisville at home. Louisville's, I think, has been exposed a little more. Virginia could be a problem with Tony Elliott. Actually, they're on a little bit of a heater right now. They've got a lot of momentum, a lot of emotion, and Tony Elliott, longtime offensive coordinator at Clemson, that could be a curveball.
I was reading your article from over the weekend just because of what happened. Just take the SEC, for example. Number 1, Alabama loses. Number 4, Tennessee loses, both on the road to unranked opponents. But your column this weekend talking about earthquakes and Armageddons and perfect storms and twisters and so forth. Just kind of your thoughts on what took place over this last weekend in college football.
Well, first of all, thank you for reading. You and my mother, that makes 2. So I'm winning.
I read it too. That's 3.
No, I forwarded it to Langell. Langell read it. That's 3.
Yeah, but he wouldn't pay for the paywall.
Oh, there you go.
No, guilty as charged.
Did you get the disaster movie references though?
I did.
Did you like that?
I did.
See,
very well done.
OJ, Towering Inferno.
Mm-hmm.
Look, when's the last time we saw something as just apocalyptic as what we saw last weekend? And we act like we're shocked, and we shouldn't be shocked. Because
hey, Scott, for Alabama fans, that was probably 2006, 2007, before Saban got it rolling. That was the last time Alabama saw something like that.
But that was a really bad / mediocre Alabama team, and it was the first year Nick Saban before he could inject his DNA into the program.
That's correct.
What we saw the other night, I should have put it under the perfect storm, because it was the worst possible thing under the worst possible conditions that could happen to Kalen DeBoer. I mean, we all watched Paul's show on Monday. I've watched it a couple of times, man, and I'll be honest with you, I would like to know the calls that didn't make it through the screener. What you guys tell me? What's the temperature right now that there's been a few more days to digest it?
Well, there's criticism, but some of it very petty. It's on Kalen DeBoer, what he's wearing. Yeah. Yep, what he's wearing. Ice cream after a practice or playing music practice. It's gotten soft. Kane Womack is apparently the worst human being ever and worst football coach ever.
Can Kalen DeBoer, though, now that it's been I don't want to say exposed, but it's been found vulnerable. Can his, modus operandi, the way he coaches, the way he runs teams, can it survive down there? Because I think Alabama needs a buttoned-up disciplinarian coach. I think it's in its DNA, going back to Bear Bryant, of course. Can they have somebody like that thrive?
I think he can. I think he's got the right temperament, because whether they were as the high as they possibly could be after beating the number one team in America in Georgia, getting that signature win, and then 7 days later be on the lowest of lows, he really has not changed much in his demeanor. Now, he was very upset, obviously, internally by losing that game against Vanderbilt, but he didn't let the rest of the world know about it, or nor did he, show his behind in a press conference or go on social media like some coaches do.
Yeah, and Scott, to your point, though, and you brought that up about his demeanor, the coaches that have won national championships, if we want to say Nick Saban, his demeanor, Gene Stallings, his demeanor, and also Bear Bryant, I would say that all three, you would group them together before you would throw a Kalen DeBoer in there.
Oh, absolutely. I'm trying to think of a coach that has won a national championship with a demeanor comparable to Kalen DeBoer. I mean, help me out here. He's not Urban Meyer. He's not even Coach O.
Larry Coker?
That's exactly who I was thinking of, was Coker.
He took over generational talent.
Yeah. Well, some would say
he
that
didn't build a program. And he's not having to build a program. He's just got to sustain a level of success that we've never seen. It's incredible. It's an amazing challenge. God bless him if he can do it.
Hey, let me ask you this, because I know you're very, very tight in the state of North Carolina. I know you reside in South Carolina, but I want to ask you.
I'm actually headed to ACC Media Day in about a minute.
Yeah, in Charlotte.
That's right.
Let me ask you about Mack Brown. Is this it for him?
Got to be. It's got to be. I mean, first of all, he's up there in years. It's the end of his coaching road. He's older than Nick Saban. He's not actually coaching. He was brought in to be the CEO, the recruiter, the guy who pats everybody on the back and elevates the program and gets out of town. And you look at this problem with the defense, and this isn't new. They brought in Gene Chizik, I think, a couple of times trying to fix it. It didn't work. I think he's gone. And I don't buy into this belief that UNC football is this sleeping giant ready to be awakened. I don't think it's there. I really don't. I think they can have some good years. I think they might back into the playoff once in a while. But I don't see that program winning an ACC title. I don't see that program making a run at the national championship.
And this is way down the road, but Mack Brown, who would be the obvious guy that they would make a run at first?
Is there one?
I don't know.
I don't know that there is one. I mean, you have to get that coach with the profile of, he's got to be hip, but he's also got to be Mr. Clean, because that's how they roll in Chapel Hill. And they got burned about, I think it was about a decade and a half ago, with some recruiting issues. Didn't work out too well for them. I can't think of a North Carolina alum who would be the obvious choice, like back in the day when they gave it to John Bunning, and he did a pretty good job. I just don't know what direction this program is going to head in.
Well, if you're looking for a coach, and I'm not trying to get him out of New Orleans, but John Summerall, the job that he did with Troy for 2 seasons, 2 Sun Belts, what he's doing at Tulane this season, I would certainly make a call to a guy like that. It seems like that he would fit that program.
I would agree with that as well. And he's so comparable to Neil Brown, in a lot of ways. And Neil Brown catches a lot of flack for how things have gone at West Virginia, but given the resources there and just the grind of being in the Big 12 when you're closer to Pittsburgh than you are El Paso, I think he's done a pretty good job.
No doubt. Scott Hamilton, always a fun visit. Charleston Post Courier, also a fun read once you get behind that paywall. Scott, we appreciate the time. Thank you. Enjoy your media day.
Hey, I'm going to enjoy this coffee right now. Remember, Sensio.
Sensio.
Fill you up and make you feel good.
Scott Hamilton is brought to you by Sensio.
And Chambers Funeral Home.
And Chambers Funeral Home. Scott, all the best. Thank you, sir. Hopefully we'll catch up soon.
All righty, man.
All right. Scott Hamilton joining us. All of our guests join us on the Buyers Right Hotline for all your insurance, financial, and HR
that tree before it falls on that house of yours. Call Golsta Tree Service today, 205-337-4018, operated by a certified arborist. Golsta Tree Service handles little jobs like trimming hedges or shaping trees to hazardous jobs like line clearance and big jobs like complete tree removals with cranes, grinding the stump and roots out and hauling off to the last twig. That's what they do at Golsta Tree Service, complete removal. Bucket trucks make it easy for them. They also offer spikeless climbing, makes it easy on your trees. Like you, they care about what your tree looks